Welcome to the Contractors Revenue Disruptor Podcast, where we teach you to win $1 million contracts. I'm Michael D. Young. Well, what's up, everybody? I am Michael D. Young, and we're here on today's episode of the Revenue Disruptor Podcast. I just want to say thank you for joining in with us. Today, I have a very, very special guest with us today, none other than my wife, Dr. Felicia C. Young. I'm so happy to have her today just to talk more about what it is like to work with your spouse in business. And I know so many people ask us this question over and over again, like, how do you all do it? How do you all work together, live together? You're around each other all day, all night. Like, don't you want to have your own time to yourself? Like, I think it'll be helpful for everyone that's listening to this podcast, maybe to understand our dynamics, some pros and cons behind working with your spouse, and maybe some tips on how to have a better working relationship if you are in business with your spouse. So welcome, Dr. Felicia.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So hopefully you're not going to make this too hard for me today. And
Hopefully
you're going to talk
not.
back. Yeah.
We'll
and you
see.
can look at me, you don't have to look at the people out there right now. But anyway, that's right. All right. Don't get in trouble. Okay.
Right.
So, having come into, first of all, ACY, the construction business, what were some of the things that I guess was an advantage for you to actually work in the business? And maybe what was the incentive? Like, you had your own career, you were doing your own thing, you were in school. What was the thing, or what comes to your mind when you think, okay, let me go work with my spouse?
Well, I think it was kind of easy to do because I was already in the construction industry prior to meeting you. So I already kind of had that knowledge from working with a larger multi-billion-dollar company before. So when I got with you and you had your own construction company, it's like, well, it makes no sense for me to pour into myself to another company. It's not going to help me out much, but to actually do it with my spouse.
I think that's tip number one. Like, why give to someone else when you can keep it in the family?
Right.
That is a major tip. And I think most small businesses start out that way, that they want to keep it in the family. They want to help their own. They want to help their children. And so most of us try to employ our entire families into our businesses. It doesn't always work out that way. But I think it's interesting to think about that. Like, I brought in my sons. They worked for a while. It didn't work out. But I'm just glad to know what I did pour into them is stuck with them, that even now my oldest son has his own low voltage company. So, are there any other advantages you can think of to working with your spouse?
I think you kind of know your spouse more than you would know your boss itself, because you around your spouse all the time. You know what they like, what they dislike, their pet peeves, which is huge when you work for somebody. You always want to know what's going to get under their skin versus a boss. Sometimes you have a boss, you don't really have that much of a relationship with them, so you don't really know, okay, do they really like this or they don't like this? But working with your spouse, you kind of know how they are.
So I think that sounds like it could be a two-edged sword, though. Like, sometimes you know too much.
Do you ever know too much?
I'm just curious, like, what are the negative sides of working with your spouse? Like, I know you mentioned a couple things.
On the negative side, sometimes your spouse can get on your nerves.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes you can have had an argument and they have to go to work, but you got to kind of turn that off and go to work anyways, do the job that you were required to do or responsible to do. So at the end of the day, you may not be happy with your spouse during that time period, but you still have to be professional.
That's a whole nother point. Like finding a way to keep it professional, even when things get heated, when there's arguments, when there are disagreements. And listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care what relationship you're in, you're gonna always have a disagreement here and there. You're gonna always maybe not agree, but it's how you navigate that.
Right.
And I think that's really important, how we've navigated situations and challenges during the course of the business. So what advice would you give to someone that's thinking about, maybe they're on the fence? I remember we actually consulted with some friends of ours before they start working together. And I remember it vividly. They took us out to lunch or dinner, I forget, but they were asking, well, how did you all do it? What some of those things? What would be advice? Like, we gave them advice. What would be some advice you would give to that spouse that is being asked to come work in the family business, and you knowing their mindset, where they are, the pros, cons? What advice would you give them?
Well, first you have to make sure that that person or that spouse is actually qualified to do the job. So just because you're married to that person doesn't mean you should actually go into business with them. So they still have to have their qualifications, whatever that position is, whether it's marketing or accounting or whatever it is, they still need to have that background.
Ooh, that's good. Like, that was really good. So don't just hire family just because they're family.
Right.
Like, hire your family member because they are actually qualified for the position. And I know for a fact that you were qualified to come into the business. And I know initially you came on to handle our marketing because all of your higher education and your degrees were in the marketing field. And now being an earned doctorate degree in business administration, a DBA, like, I know that has taken you to next levels and next heights, with also being an adjunct professor, teaching at the collegiate level and helping others. How do you feel those skills were leveraged into helping the business?
I mean, just in general, if you're thinking about marketing, I was able to kind of help market the company to where people may not have known ACY as much, but now they know them a lot, and they know ACY, they think Michael Young. So that was something I was kind of, pushing for you to do, as far as, okay, you don't want people just to know ACY. Like, when they think ACY, they want to think Michael Young, because that's who you are.
Yeah, you really pushed me to say, hey, we want to create your own brand. Like, even the logo you see on the screen, Michael D. Young, that was inspired by you. And I know sometimes this brings up a whole nother issue. You probably already know where I'm going.
Yeah, I think I do.
Sometimes this brings up another issue where sometimes you feel like you want your own. And before I let you speak on this piece, I just have to say this, and this is some advice for those that may be in the same predicament we were in. So before we got married, I already had the company. So Dr. Felicia came into the company after I was already running the company. And so the company, essentially, I had ownership and she didn't. And for years, it was just that way. And not until after the pandemic, when not only did my ownership structure change, but I just had a realization. Like, I think for me, what happened for me was that I was all in. What I mean by all in, it was like I no longer wanted to keep anything away from my wife, and I felt like our relationship had surpassed some of the other challenges, and that we got to a place where I could trust you 100%. Like, there was no question, no doubt. I had no concerns. Nothing in me was like, I want to hold some back for myself, just in case. I didn't have that just in case kind of mentality anymore. And so I'm glad to be in that place. And so what we did now, like, you literally own half of everything, all the businesses you're a part of. And I think to some people, that's a challenge. I don't want to give that up, but starting from the initial point, being branded as Michael D. Young, I know sometimes there's a challenge around wanting your own. Can you kind of talk to that for a minute and what the emotions or feelings about that is?
I know it's like recently somebody had asked me a question in regards to, did you ever get into entrepreneurship? And I was like, well, in the beginning I did. I had my own marketing company where I kind of did like marketing, branding, proposals, things like that. But they kind of shifted when we got together and you was trying to grow your business. So as your spouse, I kind of felt like, well, I can utilize my experience and my knowledge and educational background to kind of help, boost everything that you had going on. So it's kind of like, well, kind of pick and choose. You're doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for your spouse or whatever. And I kind of think of, well, it's still us. It's all of us together.
Mm. And I think, to your point, that's the type of mindset you have to have. Like, this is for us. And I could understand if you didn't own half, like, or what is mine is yours kind of thing. I could understand if you're like, hey, what about me? And you never had the opportunity to shine and to thrive in your own light. I feel like every individual at some point in time, they need their own light to shine in. And I know that's important to you. And I also know it's important for me to provide a level of security for you to know, like, no, even though it says Michael D. Young, like, this business is both ours. It's not my business, even though my name is branded behind it. No, it's both our business. We both own this organization. And so that's really, really important to me. And I would just say, if you're out there listening and you're considering bringing in your spouse, like, you have to reassure them that they're not just an employee. And it took me a long time to get over that. You really helped me with understanding that. And I struggled with that for a while. Like, I'm not, when I come to work, yes, I'm your employee, but I'm still your wife.
Right, exactly.
Why don't you talk about that for a second? Like, I know there's been situations and challenges in our marriage just with that, but can you talk about that and maybe advice you would give? What's up, everybody? If you are a construction contractor and you're looking to win $1 million contracts, grow and scale your business, I help contractors win $1 million contracts so they can make more money working fewer projects with less employees. And we do this through my mentorship program. In my mentorship program, we have bi-monthly group coaching, we have CEO groups, we provide you an online course, and we teach you the strategies you need in order to scale your business, and we help implement the systems you need on the back end to support your growth. Because number one, you definitely need the resume, the resources, and the relationships to scale your business. Then we've recently added a mentor protege program with major corporations. This is huge because number one, it allows you to learn how other major corporations desire their projects to be run, so you understand their expectations. You're learning, growing, and developing relationships with major corporations, which always leads to more business opportunities. I want to tell you, no one else is doing this in the industry, and you've come to the right place if you are looking to truly grow and scale your business. I've done it over and over again. I've won multiple awards for scaling a construction company, and I want to show you everything that I did to do it. So if you're looking to scale, grow your business, win $1 million contracts, sign up right now for my free training. It's very simple. It'll be on the screen, and we'll see you soon. God bless.
I mean, I guess kind of in the beginning, you had this mindset, like once you walk into the office, it's like straight tunnel vision, like work, 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 work. And me, it's like, well, I'm still your wife. Like, you're not going to just talk to me in a kind of way. It's at the end of the day, I still desire that same respect you would give me at home as you would in the office as well.
Yeah.
So I think that was important to kind of express, like, yes, I'm here, we're working together, I'm doing the work also, but I'm still not just your employee.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I can continue to think about Times I still say this though. I'll just say I still say this. I'm right at work, but I'm never right at home. And that's the only place I know I'm probably going to be right is at work. When it comes to what I do, I specialize in what I do, and most likely I'm going to be right. But no, it's just a great opportunity to be in a relationship where I think there's been times, of course, it's like, okay, I had enough of you today. But for the most part, for me, I can just speak for myself. I can't speak for you. You can speak on it later. But it's a joy. It's honestly a joy to work with you. And I would tell anybody, if you can find somebody you love that much that you can work with them, you can hang out with them. I know you are my number one best friend. And so just to be able to have that type of relationship and be able to, go through life, the trials, tribulations, and know you got somebody that has your back, that means a lot. And I think that speaks volume to your character and who you are and how you were raised. Can you think of any things that may be attributed to you being able to function in such a supportive way and in this type of way in the relationship?
Well, I do want to go back. So I know you mentioned earlier about working together, seeing each other all day long. Believe it or not, there's sometimes we can be in the same place and not see each other for the entire day.
That's
like
true.
You'll be in your office working, I'll be upstairs working, and we'll literally go with the entire day. Like, man, how we work together, don't even see each other sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting. So you do kind of get that break where, yes, you're working together, but you're not in each other's faces.
You're not right.
I think that's important.
So what things you think growing up, whether it's how you was raised, like what attributes helped you to not only be humble, but be a team player? Like, what helped you to work with me? Because I'm not the easiest person to deal with. Like, what things you think in life that you've gained that helped you to work with somebody like me?
I mean, just as far as growing up, watching my parents just do life together in general, they pretty much did everything together. My mom passed a few years ago, and my dad would always bring up, it was like, man, we did everything together. So it's kind of a challenge. So that's just something that I was accustomed to growing up, seeing my parents always doing everything together. And they were married, almost 50 years before my mom passed. So it was kind of like, well, I want to do that with my spouse as well. Work together, build a legacy together.
Wow. Okay. Never heard you say that. So what advice would you give someone that maybe didn't have that model growing up? What advice would you give to maybe, a couple that's out there and they're contemplating, working together, but they didn't see their parents work together. Like my parents didn't work together. So what would you say to them?
I mean, I think it's still important to at least do maybe a trial run or a test run, maybe 3 months, 6 months, or, give maybe a year to see, okay, can we really work together day in and day out? And are you successful doing it? Are you driving each other nuts? Do you want to choke each other at the end of the day? So just kind of go through that trial period to say, hey, can we really do this?
Okay. All right. So what would you tell them when it comes to maybe some things that they can do to deal with those times that they want to choke one another?
What to do?
Yeah.
Man. What to do?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. I have to think about that one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Besides, go to your separate corners.
Yeah, go to your room. You go to your room. Yeah, I think that's definitely one place. Our faith plays a big part in us being able to work together. And I think, we are still submissive to God, and we submit to God. And I think that helps as well. So I would say if you're a person of faith, you always have to ask God, help me deal with my attitude. Help me to check my emotions. Help me to be empathetic towards my spouse, even during times where they may be going through things and I just don't understand. I think that's really important, that we have empathy towards, like, hey, I'm not in your shoes. I may not understand what you're dealing with. And I think that's what happened for me me not really understanding what it's like to work under somebody. Like I have never worked under somebody in my family before. Like it's just kind of a new thing for me, but I think you definitely could teach a class on just that, because not everybody could do it. Some people, I think, they may have their own dreams and vision, and I think it's important that everybody still feel like they can thrive in doing what they've been called and purposed to do. What you think?
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, you have to be passionate about what you're working on, or who you're working with, and whatever that area of business is. You just have to be passionate about it and know that you're in your purpose.
Right. Awesome. So a couple things that I heard you say, just to kind of recap. If you are looking to get into business with your spouse, looking to help your spouse in business, number one, you're going into it with a mindset that we're taking care of home. We're taking care of family.
Right.
Number two, that we're only doing it with family that's qualified.
Correct. Yes.
Right? We're not just hiring family. I know my uncle's like, Mike, when you gonna give me a job? I come down there and run. I'm like, no, you can't run my work. You can't go to Disney and work third shift. No way. Like, it's not even possible. Make sure they're qualified for the job. Number three, make sure that I think that we're thinking about one another and that we're still each other's spouse or whatever the relationship is, that we still understand we're not just employees, but we're in this relationship, and just because we're at the job doesn't change the dynamic of the relationship. Right. And then maybe on the flip side, that if you are working as an employee, we don't disregard the relationship, but there is still an expectation of performance.
Correct.
And you still have to perform. I know we've had some words every now and then for things like that. I mean, any last thoughts or advice that you would give anybody in this situation? Any last thoughts or things you want to share with the people? You can look right there at that camera.
Look right there in that camera.
Yeah, just talk to them.
Oh, anything I want to share, last thoughts. Just make sure that it's something that you really want to do, and that's something that the both of you want to do, and that you don't feel like that you're losing out on your own life, or make sure that, okay, you're doing this together with your spouse or your partner, whoever it is, but you don't want to feel like, well, you're missing out or you're not being fulfilled personally with your own goals and vision.
That was awesome. You summed it up in such a great way. All right, Dr. Young, thank you so much for being with us on today's episode of the Revenue Disruptor Podcast. Listen, if you're out there and you're looking to win $1 million contracts and you just are not sure how, you need some help, maybe you don't know what to do, or maybe hey, I have a promising future and a promising business, but I just need a little insight of how to win $1 million contracts. I want you to go ahead, subscribe to this podcast, continue to follow us, and then go to www.winmilliondollarcontracts.com, and we'll see you soon.
We had no microphone. Oh, you know what? I'm so used to when you keep micing her up all the time. I'm like, where the microphone? I forget we had this.
Yeah, we recording already.
Yeah.
I know. There just be some behind the scenes of how she be acting silly.
You ready?
No. Got lipstick on my teeth?
No. Right. That part. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. I'm so excited about your new journey. And if you are a construction contractor looking to win $1 million contracts, join me by going to www.winmilliondollarcontracts.com. See you soon.